Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tell Show. I'm Barbara Walter.
I'm Isaiah Bell.
And we have a special guest today who's going to explain all the legal things we need to understand, and in particular, the 25th Amendment.
Hi, I'm Karen Van Riper. I'm an attorney. My background is criminal law and immigration law.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a little fashion because I really care about fashion, although you would never know. Isaiah just asked me, he's like, maybe our audience doesn't actually care about fashion and we should ask them if we should continue this segment. He's like, I know you like fashion, Barb, but maybe they don't. And I said, no, we shouldn't ask them. So I'll tell you, I'm wearing my t-shirt today, which will make my employer, UCSD, very, very happy. Over the years, they have mentioned the fact that nobody ever knows that I'm a professor at UC San Diego, but I generally don't wear this when I do media appearances, but today I am. So,
Which I love that, by the way. I'm also a UCSD alum. And I love that top in particular.
It's cropped.
It would be a crop top on me, but I feel like on you it's a regular fitting shirt.
Well, it's in the women's section at whatever the main bookstore on campus is.
I decided to wear a wine-colored shirt just in case Barb got handsy, but I should have given this to Karen because she's in the hot seat next to her.
In the splash zone.
Yeah. But yeah, who is this? I don't know who this is.
And he's also wearing palazzo pants.
Yes. I like flowy. I like comfort. And I just feel like they're so fashion right now.
Karen did not know we were going to have this segment, so.
No, and I would have worn something much cooler if I knew we were talking about fashion. Sorry.
I will say though, Karen has some of the best fashion out of anyone I know. She has the most beautiful caftans. We're both big Trina Turk fans.
We are.
And there's only a few women in my life that I will allow to, actually only a few people in my life that I will allow to buy clothes to me. One of them is Karen and one of them is my mom.
Yay.
So, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, are we talking politics? Are we doing that?
I feel like there's been a little bit going on in the Middle East that we should probably talk about.
Yeah.
And just a disclaimer, what we express today is just our opinions. This is not legal advice, even though Karen is an attorney. These are just our opinions. So, on Easter Sunday, our president put out what do they call it when you post on Truth Social? Is it a tweet or is it like a
lie?
Lie? That too. Basically stating that he was going to bomb bridges and power plants in Iran if they did not open up the Strait of, oh my gosh, I'm going to mispronounce it, Hormuz. That he was going to basically rain down. I think he said that they were going to be in hell or something like that.
Yeah,
I
and
just
he
remember
mentioned
the word
Allah.
and saying praise be Allah, making a mockery of their faith. And the timing of it being on Easter was just like, dude, how is it not clicking with you that this is absurd?
I bet he had no idea it was Easter.
I'm going to say Easter. He doesn't care about Easter.
That's true.
He does not care about Easter.
It doesn't register.
No.
But then gave an ultimatum that Iran had 48 hours to meet his terms, and if not, he was going to wipe out an entire civilization.
Do you know if these tweets happen at night? I'm just wondering if he's in some Adderall-induced, sleep-deprived, crazy delirium when he's tweeting these. And then he wakes up the next morning and he's like, oh, what do I do now? But they're crazy.
I would like to give him that pass.
Oh.
But I believe that the Easter one was sometime during the day, and I think that the other one was as well.
Maybe he saw families with their wives and children and looking happy, and he was sitting alone in his room and just being angry. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I did today. I watched a segment of the Tucker Carlson. It was on Substack, and he was commenting on this tweet, and I kind of completely agreed with Tucker.
Isn't that a scary world to be living in? That
It's like
that we're
I don't
agreeing with
even
Tucker
know.
Carlson or Candace
I
Owen or
know.
Marjorie Taylor Greene or like.
I know.
It's like we're in the upside down place.
But what I liked, what he gave, he's very religious, I assume,
Yes.
right? He's very religious, and he gave, and he's Catholic, and he gave the sort of
Or Protestant, I forget.
I don't know.
But yeah.
He gave a very religious response to that tweet, which I found really interesting, which is, if you're going after someone else's religion, you're going after their belief system, but you're also attacking religion in general.
Right.
And you're making a mockery out of faith. And like, this is the most destructive thing you could do, and the most unconscionable thing you could do. And I thought that was really interesting because it gave me insight into how maybe some people in his base might be reacting to that.
Yeah.
But those two tweets, I'm gonna destroy civilization and I'm gonna rain terror down on Easter Sunday or whatever. Praise be to Allah. Seem to be dividing.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of
right.
Tucker didn't say it directly, but one of the things he said is, "Who do you think you are?" And what that made me think, or "Who are you? Who do you think you are?" What the scripture reminded me of is, "Vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord." It's not for us to make that determination to wipe out an entire civilization. And so I was just like, maybe he is having that sort of epiphany, and I think Marjorie Taylor Greene shockingly is having a similar thing happening with her, where she's like, it is so clear that this man, number one, is insane, and that for anyone who believed that he was a follower of Christ, you were very, very wrong. What do you feel about that?
Well, you sort of alluded to what I thought is like a God complex, and I think that's completely right. I think that he actually loves, like a kid playing with toy soldiers. I think he loves the whole, like, I could blow this up. I could blow this up. I think the power is just something that he is drunk on, and he has been from the beginning. But I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. And this is probably the most extreme example we've seen of him, literally. And who knows? Maybe the fact that it was Holy Week was baked into it somehow. But I really do think he's enjoying playing God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So one of the responses, and we've seen this response over time to these mad tweets, was, okay, it's time for the 25th Amendment. If you go on Blue Sky, and we can talk about Blue Sky sometime. I'm on it.
I think we're all on it.
I don't understand
in protest, but it's annoying.
It's annoying.
It
It's
is.
like, I'm liberal and I hate Blue Sky.
I know.
And I get maybe one like. Is anybody on Blue Sky?
I don't think so.
But anyway, I was on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And it was literally one post after another. Must invoke the 25th. Must invoke this. If anything proves that he needs the 25th. And I don't entirely understand the 25th, so I'm assuming many of our viewers don't either. And Karen is here, so please explain this to us. What is it? Under what circumstances do you think it will be invoked? And what are the chances that it will be used against Trump?
Or I'll just add another piece to that. Or should we be looking at impeachment as opposed to invoking the 25th Amendment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. The 25th Amendment was ratified in 1967. It was sort of the aftermath of the assassination of JFK. There had previously already been a sort of a basic structure of hierarchy of who's first in line, who's second in line, et cetera, which we still have. But that amendment was a way to try to clarify specifically in what instances what happens if the president is removed from his or her position. And there's 4 different sections. The first one is if the president, basically it says the vice president becomes the president, and then on down the line if the vice president for some reason is unavailable. But it's obviously the one everybody thinks of first is if the president dies in office, or if he is impeached and removed, or if for some reason he resigns. And then the second section of the 25th sets forth the rule that the president can nominate a new vice president if he needs to or if he wants to.
Oh, so he could get rid of Vance. Oh.
Yeah.
And that's only been used once when Agnew resigned and Nixon nominated Ford, right? And then the last two sections are voluntary or involuntary transfer of power. Section 3 is voluntary transfer of power. So, and that's been used a handful of times. If the president has to go into the hospital and he's going to be under general anesthesia, he's during that time he is incapable of doing his duties as a president. So he voluntarily turns his power over to the VP. So the VP is technically the president for a half a day.
Do they do this, or
Yeah.
do they hide the fact that they're sick because they don't want to give up power?
Well, that's a separate question. I mean, certainly when Reagan was in the office, and all the rumors were mounting that he had dementia, and it was coming more and more. But there's been lots of presidents who have had lots of illnesses and even struggles with mental illness, and I think it's largely hidden. But that voluntary transfer of power is just used, I think, in situations like when Reagan was being operated on, and I think George W. Bush had a few procedures done while he was president, and he transferred power. So, but anyway, the last one, which is the one everybody's talking about now, is Section 4, which says the vice president can declare, and he has to have a majority of the cabinet along with him, that the president is now incapable of doing his duty and he's out. That's the first step.
Oh, so why do people talk about Congress?
Well, because that's
So
the next
Congress
step.
has to. Yeah, go ahead.
So the first step is the VP and a majority of cabinet, they have to put it in writing. I don't know, who has to witness it or whatever, but they put it in writing. They go to the president and they say, we don't think you can do your job anymore, and you're incapable of doing the duty of the president, so we're kicking you out. And then the president has the right to either say, okay, fine, I'll leave, or contest it. And if he contests it, then it goes to Congress. And then you need 2/3 of both houses of Congress to agree with the VP and the majority of the cabinet all together to override the president's contesting of the first part of the VP and cabinet. So that's how it works. It's never been invoked. Not ever.
Okay. And what are the chances it's invoked against Trump?
Zero.
Why?
Because
On the same page.
look at who his cabinet is.
The vice president himself is never going to be on board
The
with
vice
this.
president's not going to do it.
Under
No way.
any administration ever?
No,
Oh,
not
no.
under any
I mean,
administration
sorry, I
ever.
meant
JD
this
Vance
administration.
is never going to be on board with invoking this.
Sorry, I thought you were talking just about this
No, I would
administration.
get maybe both.
I would hope that if there's really a crisis and you have some kind of reasonable cabinet and Congress that's bipartisan, that they would be able to manage that.
I think I think back and I'm like, I feel like if something would have happened with Clinton that might have gone a little further.
Gore might have done it?
I could see them. I don't feel like any of the situations that happened during his presidency would have called for it, but I'm thinking the administrations that would have the integrity to use it in the right way, I could have seen that occurring.
Okay, here's a thought. Vance will never do it because who's the majority on the cabinet that's going to go in with him? Yeah. Because Trump has appointed these
minions,
these stooges. But what if he hadn't? If you had reasonable cabinet members, maybe like we had in the first administration, would Vance still, or is Vance just?
But think about it though. Even in the first
putz?
administration, Trump fires everyone
I know.
before. As soon as it's getting to that moment where they're starting to shift on him just a little bit, they just so happen to have a reason to go work in the private sector, or they have a new assignment that they need to go work on under Marco Rubio. Like, I will say, I do think that whether it's him making these decisions himself, two things. One, I think that he has eyes and ears everywhere. I think that no one can trust anything they say in that White House without thinking that it's going to get back to Trump. I think he just does. And I think when that happens, he is used to having, I think one thing people have to remember with Trump is he is always used to being on the defense. He is always used to having to look out for himself, whether it is because people are filing lawsuits against him because he's not paying them or he doesn't have enough money to run his casinos or whatever it is. Like, he's always having to think of how am I gonna get out of this unscathed. It is a skill set he has perfected.
And it started with his parents, because his parents
Yep.
were not great parents. And he probably was playing defense with both of them in different ways.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think when it comes to his administration, even if maybe when Bill, it's like, to me, it's so, it means nothing when I see Bill Barr or certain people from his former administration, or even after he was out of office, or what was his name, Mike Pence, now making statements against him. And it's like, where was that gravitas?
Too little, way too late.
When you actually had some power. Yeah. Honestly, I can appreciate that Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to be getting on somewhat of a different path. I still don't trust it, but I can appreciate it. But I'm like, then why didn't you stay in a position where you had power?
Yeah.
It's this thing where all of these folks acquiesce to him at every turn.
But only after their political fortunes aren't tied to him anymore.
Right, is when they're able to speak up.
Okay, so if there's no chance the 25th Amendment will ever be invoked against Trump, then why do people keep talking about it? Why are people fixated with, gotta invoke the 25th Amendment? Or they just, why?
Well, I think that it's a natural response to at least call for the right thing to be done, even if the chances of it happening are very small. And it's also a way to put, I mean, it's 99% Democrats who are calling for it, so they're trying to put the pressure on the Republicans to say, you guys should be doing the same thing we're doing. You should be calling for using the structure that is built into the Constitution. That's why it's there, is for a crisis like this. You have a duty to do this. I think and sometimes it's always a mistake, I would think, to call for that if you just don't like the person, if they're unpopular. But I think in this situation, I think part of the reason there's such a huge outcry this time is because the whole "we will annihilate a civilization" is probably the most insane thing we've ever heard him say.
So do you think he's getting more insane? And if so, what's driving that? These two tweets were extraordinary and unique and different from what he's done in the past. And then now that they're out there, what are the implications they're going to have for how Americans view him, but probably more importantly, how the rest of the world views us?
I don't think that he's gotten any more insane at all. I think that he gave Americans the freedom to be exactly who they wanted to be, whether that was racist or xenophobic or sexist or misogynistic. He gave them that freedom, and in return, they gave him the freedom to be exactly who he was, and that is all of those things.
So good.
And so I think that right now what's happening is people didn't realize how far off the rails it could go when that sort of like social contract that we have with each other as American citizens, I think sort of, and then I just wanted to loop back for a second to the point that you were asking Karen about. I think what people also want is to feel like there's an accountability mechanism. I feel like they want to believe that in America, there is always something that we can do to hold somebody accountable.
Yeah.
And so reaching for that 25th Amendment, it's that or impeachment. And those are the two things that people really are sort of aware of. And so it's the easiest thing to go to say, oh, well, we should invoke this, or we should have Congress vote to impeach. Because you want to feel like you're in a society where people can still be held accountable.
Yeah.
But these are also the same people that empowered him to become the person that he is today.
Yeah. Okay, so you think he hasn't gotten any crazier, that this is just the natural progression of this deal between Trump and his supporters to be as who they are, as bad as they want to be.
I think now he's in his second term also.
Yeah.
You have to take that into account.
Yeah.
He's not worried about, I mean, if somehow he can pull this thing off where he can run for president a third time, he probably would never run for a third time. He would just appoint himself president a third time. If he can somehow pull this thing off, then maybe there's some reason for him to think, oh, I should care about what his citizens think about me. But really with most second-term presidents, they're able to have a lot more freedom because they don't have to worry about winning another election.
So he doesn't have to worry about what he says domestically, but it could make his life more difficult internationally. So
He just talked about running after this to be the president of Venezuela.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's no end.
Sometimes I feel like we only have so many years on this earth, and there's a part of me that thinks I'm wasting precious moments, precious years on this fucking guy. But let us persevere.
Yeah.
We're in uncharted territory here. We have now had a sitting American president who has publicly announced that by midnight yesterday that he was going to annihilate an entire civilization, which is a war crime, by the way,
Right.
Unless they acceded to his wishes. So there's two parts to this. The first part is, like, what does this mean for America moving forward, operating in a world where we actually have to share Earth? And what does it mean that he backed down today? The Wall Street Journal, by the way, which I subscribe to, it's always interesting to see their read. And their read was that, yay, Trump kind of won. Iran backed down, and there's a ceasefire, and they're negotiating. And all I could think of was, it's all fake.
Yeah.
They didn't accede to anything.
Yep.
A ceasefire is meaningless. And basically all this is the same old taco Trump.
Yep. Yeah, Israel continued bombing Lebanon.
Sure did.
I don't know. I haven't checked the news in the past 30 minutes, but I believe that Iran again closed Hormuz.
The strait, yeah.
So
They must be laughing at us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think too, though, it's our allies are the ones that are really within Iran's reach.
Yeah.
And so...
And are dependent on Iranian and Persian Gulf oil.
Right. And so what message are we sending to would have been our allies forever?
The message we're sending is Trump is Putin's stooge. It's his tool. And Trump wants to break up NATO, and Trump wants to destroy the EU, and Trump wants liberal Western democracy to collapse.
Well, that's not what Trump wants. That's what Putin wants. Putin wants to have the Soviet Union back. Putin wants to make sure that Western civilizations adopt everything, every belief that Russia has.
Yeah.
He wants people to be crippled in the U.S. just like he's crippled his own nation.
Yeah. But if Putin owns Trump because Putin has sex tapes on him or controls the Epstein files, and
Allegedly.
it's probably something as simple as that,
Yeah.
ridiculous as that,
Yeah.
then what Putin wants, Trump will try to deliver.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what we would have to think about is, this is probably a perfect question for you. What could Trump be facing once he gets out of office? If he doesn't have presidential immunity anymore, if he is being held to account for all of the possible crimes that he's committed while he's been in office.
Well, I think the first thing he's afraid of is if there's a huge blue wave in the midterms that he's going to be impeached and removed.
Mm-hmm.
And how likely is that, Karen?
I don't know how strong the blue wave is going to be, but I think
if there is a blue wave, how strong would the likelihood be if
100%.
he's...
I think he will be removed. Mm-hmm. If the votes are there. There's no point in even going through, the first stage of an impeachment if you don't have the votes for removal. I mean, and
Right.
then it's just, they've already done that twice, and he doesn't care. He thinks it's entertaining.
So here's a naive question. I feel like Clinton was impeached and Trump was impeached.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about them being impeached, but they never left office. So what happened there? Can you be impeached and actually not leave office? And why does that happen?
Well, it happens because of politics. Yes, you can be impeached and then, as in the case of both of them, not removed, because it's a two-part process where being impeached is sort of like being indicted, and then being removed, you have to be convicted. So if somebody is indicted by a grand jury, for example, for a felony, then that's the first step. You've been indicted, but then there's a trial and the jury has to decide whether or not you're guilty, knowing that there will be consequences if you are found guilty. So,
And neither president, if I'm remembering correctly, has had the House and the Senate vote to impeach, correct? It's just been one or the other.
I don't remember what the vote was in Clinton's impeachment.
I don't remember either.
Like I said, I think it's only been one sector, either the House or Senate. I don't think it's ever been both.
So is this just a paper tiger, or is it what's the term when it's like a tool, but it's actually meaningless?
It can work, I think. It just depends on this is part of the reason why this particular election, in my opinion, will be the most critical election we've ever had in our history, because it will determine whether or not we continue to have an accountability mechanism. It will determine whether or not we have free and fair elections. It will determine whether or not we have a democracy. That's how crucial this
Okay, explain
election is.
to our viewers why all of that is tied to the midterms.
So, Project 2025 has been in the works for a very long time. And essentially, it was created out of a need to figure out how a party could continue to win if you don't have the votes anymore. And what's happening right now is the Republican Party is losing their base statistically. So just by people being born in this country, they're continuing to lose their base.
Okay.
And what you also have happening is that you have someone who you thought you could keep on track, being Trump, and you can't. And so I think after the first election, they were just like, okay, we're going to see what we can do with this guy. I think that Republicans didn't think that there was any world where Trump would get elected in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Trump thought he would get elected.
Yeah. And so we've now had to push forward this agenda to basically rig elections, number one, to sow doubt in the integrity of American elections and the American people, so that it seems just to have every election questioned and taken to court and and then have those courts stacked with people appointed by Trump, and then have election officials that are known to be siding with Trump. It's setting up a whole chessboard.
Because he has to win the midterms. Now explain why he has to. What's so important about the November elections?
Because if you have a blue wave and you have Democrats in the House and in the Senate, then his agenda is gone.
And why is that?
Because they will challenge him at every turn. And like Karen said, there's a high likelihood that they will work to impeach him immediately.
Yeah.
That agenda is out of the window. He doesn't have the guards protecting his palace anymore if he loses the midterm
And Karen,
election.
if there's a majority in the House, but not a Democratic majority in the House, but not in the Senate, and the House votes to impeach, he won't be impeached because it won't pass the Senate, correct?
Well, he'll be impeached, but he won't be removed.
Okay, he won't be removed. So you would need a Democratic majority in the House
And the Senate.
and the Senate. which people are talking about is possible if we have free and fair elections.
Yes.
Now, if that happens and Trump is indicted and removed, does he have immunity? What is that Supreme Court ruling?
Not if he's not the president
Not
anymore.
if he's not the president. So then he could actually go to jail.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, by the way, the situation Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, is in. He's also been indicted, I think. And if he is no longer in office, he will probably go to jail. And so he keeps starting wars, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, because as long as he's at war, he delays elections and he stays in power. It's this crazy gambling for resurrection. I'm just going to keep on like fighting to put us in a state of war. I think Trump probably would try to delay elections if he could,
100%.
because the November elections are so threatening to him. And ultimately, they're both thinking about, I don't want to go to jail. Okay, so here's one last question, and then I'll turn the floor over to you guys. What if we saw this was Trump's game? He's driven to do these crazy, horrible things. I'm going to destroy civilization because he wants to avoid jail. What if we just said, Trump, you're never going to jail. We'll give you a pass. We'll do what South Africa did to the Afrikaners. I know you're going to be like, I know, we're not going to go into South Africa yet. But what if we just said, okay, we're going to give you an exit ramp that's safe, where you are not going to go to jail, but it's an exit ramp.
I feel like that would put us on the slipperiest of slopes of what precedent we're setting for anyone to come into that office in the future.
Okay.
Do you mean that if you said, we want you to leave, and if you leave, then we won't prosecute you? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. As a condition of him resigning, essentially?
Resigning or not doing shenanigans to try to stay in power or not declaring
Which is similar to what has happened in other
powers.
countries when leaders have been exiled, essentially.
Yeah. That you basically say, we'll give you a villa in the south of France, but we are going to escort you from the Philippines
That's
or from
my
Nicaragua.
escape plan, not the south of France. You can go anywhere else.
And you will not cause trouble ever again. So if you have a situation like a Netanyahu who's just like burning down the Middle East to avoid jail, which is insane, right? Like the cost to the rest of the region for this one individual's perseverance is ridiculous. But what if that was the case with Trump, where we're like, okay, if you're so afraid of impeachment and prosecution, and we'll give you the billions of dollars that you have sucked up during your second term, and we will not prosecute you, but you have to go away forever.
That agreement would hold just like the agreement we currently have with Iran.
I don't think he would take that.
It would last for 2 seconds.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He would never.
Okay, why would he never take that?
Because he's a profoundly damaged person with a gigantic ego.
Yes.
I don't think that he would ever, under any circumstances, volunteer to, even with all these enticements, to turn around and walk away.
Okay.
I mean, you look at men with power and have all the money in the world. I mean, look at Elon. Elon could have just gone with his billions and sailed into the sunset and had people still liking Tesla and A, B, C, and D. But no, I need to have power. So I need to tie myself to Trump. I need to become part of Doge. I need to be the head of Doge. And it's like, for what? You have, I mean, what most Americans would consider having achieved the American dream and success beyond comprehension, but you can't help yourself because the stakes have gotten higher for these wealthy men. It's not about the money anymore. It's about the power.
Power.
Plus, I don't think Trump really would fear being convicted, being sent to jail. I think he is 100% convinced that he will beat any rap, no matter what.
That's probably true.
He's been playing the system his entire life, and he just, I don't know, but he seems like the kind of person that, from everything we've seen, just doesn't, he thinks he's untouchable.
I'd be willing to bet that he has the same type of brain that Saddam Hussein had close to the end. I'd be willing to bet
or
if
Gaddafi,
there were, if there were therapists or
guys.
people that were able to say, like, we see these signs and such, like, I think that they would see the same thing in these men.
Yeah.
And it's where they really do get to a state that they surround themselves with people who make them believe the false reality that they've created to the point where Trump might actually believe that he's invincible.
Yeah. So it wouldn't work, number one. Like, why should we create a precedent for giving a soft landing to these horrible people? Because it wouldn't work with the guy we're trying to actually deter. Right. And then second, it would set a precedent that if you want to, enrich yourself beyond your wildest dreams, the easiest way to do that is to become president, do it in ridiculously illegal, awful means, and then get a soft landing. So that's a bad policy.
Well, and we're already in a place where our politics is pay to play, and billionaires are the only ones who can afford to play. And so it's like, what more are they, what other things are they going to do? I feel like they're just going to try and think of things to appall us even more, do the most egregious thing to see, like, how far can I go?
Yeah. So that strongly indicates that the U.S., I don't even know what the U.S., who that is, needs to be tough on Trump, right? That we have to set a precedent with Trump that you actually can't behave this way and get away with it.
No golden parachutes.
What does that look like, Karen?
Well, I think there's no chance that the 25th Amendment is going to be invoked against him, although I think it should be.
Yeah.
Do we have cause at this point? Like, I mean, I guess you would have to have someone declare him incompetent, unable to fulfill his duties. I guess I'm like, do we have enough evidence to prove without a shadow of a doubt that this is what should be invoked?
Well, that's a great point, because it's never been done, and there is no defined legal standard for what that even means. If you go back and look at the record of the debates in Congress when they were trying to decide how to craft the 25th Amendment and when it was being ratified, you can look at, the conversations that were being had in Congress about, like, well, what does this really mean? And it's all very vague. It's like, well, you're too, you can't perform your duties. You're being, grossly negligent of your duties. There's one, and I forget the exact language, but it sounds so accurate right now. It's like, your behavior is, thrusting the United States government into chaos or something like that. I don't think it's the word chaos, but it's something just like that. And I mean, that's exactly where we are.
Yeah.
We not only with that tweet or post about annihilating a whole civilization, I mean, he's completely turned over any moral authority that we have ever had as the United States of America by making a statement like that, by leveling a threat like that against civilian people, against civilian infrastructure.
Women and children and babies and people who actually are anti the Islamic regime of Iran, that are anti our enemy, like who should be our allies. Like, it's crazy.
The people that he was saying, a few weeks ago, like, oh, we're trying to liberate you. Rise up and we're going to clear the way for you. So, but then, oh, just kidding, we're going to just vaporize the whole country.
Could you imagine what it was like yesterday for the people of Iran?
No.
Where you're sitting there and you don't know.
This is one of those
You
things.
don't know if the United States is going to drop a nuclear bomb on you. The president of the United States is going to drop a nuclear bomb on you where you don't. The
Yeah.
president of the United States has publicly stated that he will annihilate you by midnight if your government, a government you hate and you have no control over,
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
negotiate with him.
And even setting
it's
aside-
terror. It's terror. It's
Yeah.
It is. That's a good point. And even, I was going to say, even setting aside the horrendous threat to the people of Iran, it also put Americans and American allies in a huge amount of danger because
Oh,
it
yeah.
gives justification to the regime in Iran to do whatever they want to us.
Yeah.
It feeds that whole, America is the devil of the world and whatever. It gives them justification for attacking American citizens abroad or at home or citizens of allied countries. That probably didn't even occur to him.
Well, I don't know. I actually think if Iran were to launch an attack against the U.S. homeland, not a base in the
Yep.
Middle East, if it were to hit the U.S. mainland, it would help Trump, and I think Trump knows that. Because think about what happened here with George Bush. George Bush didn't win a majority of the votes in the 2000 election.
Yep.
And he wanted to be reelected in 2004. He knew he needed to get more votes. He was not particularly popular. It was not clear that was going to happen. His popularity, if you look at a graph, his popularity pre 9/11 went from this to this.
Yeah.
To this. Nothing galvanizes American support behind a president, more than a direct attack of the United States. So thankfully, Iran hasn't done that, and hopefully they don't do that. Maybe they understand the strategic game here and are being restrained because they don't want to help Trump. I don't know, but.
So,
Yeah. But I think Trump probably has thought, well, let them launch an attack. They hit New York, fine. They hit Los Angeles. Well, they're not going to hit Los Angeles. It's gonna probably.
well, because then what he'll do is say, "You guys see, I told you.
Yeah.
I was trying to protect you.
Yeah, and
I
you
told
need
you
a
this was an
strong
imminent threat."
president now.
Yeah. So I feel like we're probably coming close to time. If we had to think about what this current situation with Iran is, what's the tell? What is this having Americans focus on instead of something that we should be focused on? Because I think the reality is that there was never an imminent threat from Iran, that there was going to be attack on U.S. soil
Yeah.
that was going to harm our citizens.
Yeah.
So what's really behind this?
I think the answer is always the same. The Epstein files.
I agree.
Till next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.